Hello, and thank you for joining the Champion Within podcast, your premier go-to spot for unlocking your winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete looking to elevate your game to the next level, a coach leading the charge, an enthusiastic parent cheering from the sidelines, or an educator molding young minds, the Champion Within podcast episodes are packed with value, sharing the tools and strategies to unlock your potential and rise to new heights. Hosted by mentor, coach, and mindset leader Kate McCauley. Let's sit back and enjoy today's episode while discovering your champion within. And now, here's Kate.
Hey champions, thank you for joining us on The Champion Within. I am excited to share my guest, Lauren, with you today. She has a really cool journey. I think that you're going to be leaning in and listening to the mindset wisdom that she shares with you. You're definitely going to be wanting to follow her and steal some tips. Well, let's get right into it. Lauren, how are you today? And could you just tell a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, by the way. I know this is a wonderful podcast, so I'm honored to be part of it. I'm Lauren. I currently live in Austin, Texas. I'm a functional medicine nutritionist, but that has not always kind of been my career. I grew up in South Florida playing tennis, had a whole family that played tennis at a high level, and then got the opportunity actually to play at the University of Florida for the Gators from 2009 to 2013, where I was part of a great culture, great team, great support system, great teammates, and was fortunate enough to do really well there. Our team won a couple of back-to-back national championships, and that kind of propelled me into, the pro tour life and my dreams of being a professional tennis player and all of those things. But I say that because now I am in holistic health and nutrition, and I wouldn't have gotten here if it wasn't for my own kind of journey in health and wellness. I was kind of diagnosed with a few autoimmune diseases back in the day, like 10, 12 years ago, and fully healed it and kind of reversed it on my own through diet and nutrition. It really kind of propelled me through this path of how can I help people feel better. After I stopped playing tennis, got into college coaching, was coaching at Pepperdine and then back at my alma mater with the coach that I played for, which was really special to me. Decided that I wanted a little bit different path to my life and moved to Austin, Texas, opened my own functional medicine nutrition company. And it's been about a year and a half since doing that. It's been a wild ride, but I'm super, super grateful and love what I do every single day and just helping people feel better through diet and lifestyle and trying to get people on their health journey with the support of all of the things that I've learned from my own experience.
I love this. I loved your journey. My listeners know I'm always looking for people that can teach us something. And when they tap in to listen, they're sending me messages. Oh, that was so cool the way she looked at this or that. And I learned this. I know I'm going to learn a lot just from listening to what you have to say, following you on Instagram. There's so many places that I want to dig into, but let's start with your tennis career. I know that you had the opportunity to play at the college and professional level. If you could think back when you were making the decision, maybe it was during high school, if you could take a minute to think back to that and when you're deciding where you're going to play, because I get to love a lot of athletes. I love that you said something about now I get to help people with this nutritional piece in their life and what you learned. And that's what I get to do with the mindset piece for athletes. I get to help them figure out the journey in a healthy way and, get their mind and their head in a good place. If one of my high school athletes or a coach or their parent were listening, maybe they're a tennis player, maybe they play a different sport. When you're thinking back and you had to make that decision of where to go, let's start there. What did you do there? How did you decide this is the best place for me to be?
Oh, I love this question so much because it probably is one of the most important pieces to the puzzle when you're navigating this space. And really what kind of separated it for me was a few different things, but one was the coaches, right? So like, how am I going to have a good relationship with the coaches? What's their coaching philosophy? I talked to a lot of the players currently on the team and who went through the program of their own experience, because a lot of the time recruiting, the coaches are going to tell you what you want to hear. And the same thing for the players. You're going to tell the coaches what you think they want to hear. That was a huge one, was doing some research and gathering information about that. The second one for me, the weather, and with tennis, I didn't want to be inside. I didn't want to be cold. I wanted to be in a warmer climate. The other factor for me was my goal, like in high school, I remember writing this down, was to win a national championship and to be number one in college. So that kind of eliminated a lot of other schools just based on the history and the success of a lot of teams. So those three, and then the facilities, all of that is kind of the same at these big SEC schools or big ACC schools or these big, D1 schools. They're all wonderful. So that was kind of out of it. I didn't really care about that. I cared about the people. I cared about the coaches. I cared about having the chance to win a national championship, but also doing it with a culture that kind of embodied what I was about. And it's much of an interview as it is for them, as it is for you as well. I was just trying to ask those questions to kind of see. The biggest thing I tell kids is go on the visits, because when you're there, your body kind of tells you and your gut knows. You have a strong intuition. And I knew. I went to some other schools and had the best recruiting trip, was with my best friends, but I just knew that my heart was at Florida from the moment that I stepped on campus. And it wasn't even my favorite recruiting trip. I had fun at other places, but I just knew that this was the place for me. So take the visits and take more than one so you can compare them.
I love all of that advice. I think there's so many things that you said there that I want to pull out. Let me start. I'll kind of go backwards. 100%. If you are a parent listening, if you are one of my athletes listening, you need to visit.
Yes.
I did this actually. I'm a mom now. Well, I've been a mom for a while, but my 3 kids are at that age where we're starting to look at college. My oldest is in college. I have a daughter who's a junior in high school, and then my youngest will be a high schooler next year. He's an 8th grader. Anyway, when
you look great, by the way. That's crazy.
Oh, well, I did have to put my roots are colored in with, the powder, and my hairdresser always says to me, I know when we're getting close to our appointment, which happens to be on Wednesday, because on Instagram, I'll be like up high and you see like my forehead, and she's like, I always know. People don't know, but I know. I'm like,
you look fab.
But thank you. I appreciate It's probably the night cream.
Whoa.
Anyway, thank you. But when we are looking, my oldest, he was dead set on certain places. And I was a teacher for 20 years at the high school level. And I, would work with some of my students and athletes. I was a health and phys ed teacher, not a guidance counselor, but, being a coach and helping them, I knew how this went, and just playing sports myself. And I said to my son, we have to go visit these places, because you think you want to be a certain place and you see a certain thing and think this is what college is. And sure enough, I won't name the school and knock them, but we went to the first place where he said, this is it for me. This is where I'm going. We go on the tour, did the whole thing. They were great. The people were great. We're walking around and he turns to me and says, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be. I do not want to be here. And I said, well, we're going to finish the tour. Yeah. Really, we're going to finish this. And, and he's like, oh yeah, of course. He's like, but this is not what I thought college would be. Even like it was much smaller, and he just had a different view of even the town that the college was in, so like you said, you feel it when you get there, because when you look at their website or you get on a Zoom call, and a lot of kids, this is normal for them now to do this online meet and greet type thing. Nobody is selling a dead fish and saying, this
it all sounds great. Yeah.
Right. The idea of going twice is great, because you need to make sure that this is your place. And I think that's a great tip. And you do feel it, and you got to trust yourself on that. So great tip. I want to go all the way back to the beginning where you said you remember writing down your goals, and that list of things was a great list. And of course, some of those things you're like, all the colleges have these great facilities, but writing down your goal, that's something that within mindset and work that I do. And really you can change neural pathways with actually writing it and then saying it. Is that something you do on a regular basis with mindset, or is that you just happen to do that and remember?
Honestly, now I do it on a regular basis, but my 15-year-old self was not doing that. But tennis, I treated, and this is like credit to my parents, and any parent I feel like that's in the sphere of young kids playing at a high level of sports. Sometimes it can get jaded with the pressures and all the things, but my parents did such an unbelievable job of instilling fun, keeping it fun. I wasn't burnt out. I went to regular school. I had normal friends. I was just like kind of a normal kid, but I wasn't doing normal things because tennis, I was so engulfed in. But I remember just journaling kind of not every day, but my goals as college started to appear, being able to turn pro before college. I got really not, I guess you could maybe classify it as anxious now, but I wasn't anxious. It was just confused on like what I wanted to do. And my parents were very dead set on lay it out, have a vision. You're going to school, you're getting an education,
Right.
you can turn pro afterwards. And I'm like, great, I can't wait to go play at a college level and be on a team and be part of something bigger than myself. And this sounds awesome. Why would I turn pro at 17? I'll quit by the time I'm 22. I'll be super unhappy. But I remember just writing down, okay, what do I want my experience to look like in college going through this process, because I was fortunate enough to be a top level recruit. And all of these coaches coming at me at once. And they all said great things.
Right.
So I just remember saying that, and that kind of narrowed down my list. And that just helped my brain kind of just refocus and recenter on what I really actually wanted in my next 4 years, because they ultimately drive the best or worst years of your life, I think, is college. So trying to get it right the first time was really important to me.
Yeah, I love that. Kudos to your parents for doing that,
yeah.
because the journey is yours and theirs. You know, they're trying to help you find your way and let you do it. I said from the time my kids were born, my goal is not to screw them up. And I'm like just trying to do my best not to do that and let them do it on their own, you know, the guide on the side almost. But like, thank goodness you had them. I do something called the village mentality talk when I'm working with a team. The first time I go in, sometimes I do it through a season. If I have a workshop, I invite the parents afterwards. It's just part of what I do, not an extra thing. And it's a volunteer thing. Any parent that wants to come, I talk about what we did. And because when I was younger playing sports and things like that, we didn't really talk about this mindset stuff as much, even though maybe I was writing some stuff down. It wasn't really part of the training.
Yeah.
And parents were like, okay, we get it. It's mindset, but they don't really even know. It's almost, what is this woo-woo crazy stuff this lady's doing? So I explained to them what we're doing. And I call it village mentality. And we just kind of talk about it with the parents, because they do want to do what's best for the kids, but sometimes they're not doing it the right way. They need to know you got to talk with your kid, you know? So I'm so happy to hear that's what your parents did for you. That's amazing. Can you think of a moment where mindset came into play, whether or not you knew it at the time, but reflecting now that you had to really lean on using mindset?
Yes. And I just remember walking in as a freshman. They were already a very well-established team. Here I come as a freshman with another recruit, was playing 1 and 2 in the lineup. I felt a lot of pressure to win because I wanted to do well for the team. I had unbelievable seniors that bumped spots lower so that me and this other freshman could be at 1 and 2. And I just remember my sophomore year, I mean, there's a lot of high pressure moments, but my sophomore year playing for a national championship, and it was me and this other girl on the line. It was 3 all-in matches. I don't know if everybody knows how tennis works, but it came down to my match, my singles match. And I was trailing by a lot. I was down by a lot. And I just remember looking over to my team, and my coach was cool as could be, super calm. They knew me so well. So they knew how to coach me and how to talk to me. But I just remember being like so in the zone. And I know you being an athlete and other athletes listening, they know that you almost can't hear anything else because you're so locked in. And I remember being like, okay, if I can just get this game, I was on 4-0. And I'm like, if I could just get this game, then I'm in it, you know, and just my coaches and my teammates, just the positive reinforcement and the support and the belief that they had in me in that moment that I maybe not had in myself, because I was, oh my God, I'm about to lose a national championship. But I never really thought that. It was more, okay, just get this game, like be in the moment, 1 point at a time, just almost tricking my brain. I got rid of the external noise. We were also playing away at their home courts, not ours. There's a lot of external things that could have clouded my vision of just trying to put one foot in front of the other. But I remember my coaches and the support. If I was like in a back court in, you know, China playing a random match down 4-0 in the third, I would lose in 2 seconds. But because I had all of this other support and the environment and the positive belief from all of my teammates that I felt, it just kind of propelled me to the next level. We ended up winning that match, and our team ended up winning the national championship. But I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for everybody that I was surrounded with.
That is so important that you surround yourself with those types of people. When you're on campus, you can feel that vibe there. You know, this is a place I want to be. Because like you said, you're spending a lot of time with these people. I loved how you said, if you could trick your brain, that's exactly what we're doing in these high pressure situations when you're an athlete. And then sometimes athletes don't even realize it, but they take that skill into what they do next in their life. And in all areas, it's not like you turn it off on the, you know, the tennis court. you take that with you in everything that you do. And you literally can trick your brain. Like myself now as a speaker, instead of saying, I'm so nervous, and I tell other speakers this, you literally can tell your brain, I'm excited for this. I get to teach these people. I get to give them this information. It's going to help them, and your body can adjust accordingly, and you are tricking your brain.
Yeah.
And your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what you're saying.
Telling it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. And it's as simple as that. Sometimes we try to make it too complicated. My athletes are like, well, what exactly do I do? You just nailed it. You're tricking your brain.
Yeah.
With self-talk. And the positivity that's being fed to you is authentic. I think that is important there. That's not tricking your brain. That's real, that part. And you can feel that too. When you're feeling that moment of, winning and all that, I think that's amazing. And that's incredible to feel that. But when I hear you say, I wouldn't have been able to do it without all of those other things, that goes right back to when you're looking at a college and where you're going to go, you need to feel like, can I see myself? Can I write that goal down? Can I see myself doing it with these people?
Yep.
Because it definitely changes things. Very cool. Love that. I really just was looking at your Instagram and some different things that, you've gotten to do after you left Florida. How did the professional, world come your way? Was it while you were still at school? What happened for you after the college?
Yeah. So usually the trajectory, this was 10 years ago. Now it's a little bit more, you kind of go to school and then you turn pro. But back then it was like you either turn pro or you go to school. There's one or the other. But I just had this dream of being a professional tennis player, and my parents were going to support me with whatever I wanted to do as long as I went full throttle with it. And so after my college career, had a wonderful career, had a lot of opportunities, finished one in college, and just was on this high, right? Ready to go for the next step. Doesn't all work out like that, but turned pro, moved out to LA. That's where my coach was at the time. I signed with a coach. She was traveling with me for like about 2 years. But I will tell you, it's very different than college because we probably had like a 90% winning record in college, our team. And then you go on tour and you're losing every week. And that's normal for all tennis players, especially when you're just starting out. So that was a huge, if anything, that was probably the biggest like adjustment for me mentally. Was I was losing way more than I was used to.
So what did you do there? Sorry to jump in, but because I think that shift is huge. And honestly, thank you for being honest, because some people are like, well, this is great, Kate. You're bringing on this great athlete, which people love to hear. But then they're like, oh, I'm not her. This is sunshine and rainbows. So thank you for saying it isn't all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
What did you do when that started to happen?
Yeah, it's definitely not. The Pro Tour is and neither is college. We had our challenges as well. But really what I did, again, it goes back to having a very small but supportive circle around you, because you start to learn quickly that it's kind of dog eat dog out there. No one's really on your team. So you need a solid team to just get you through the losses when you're booking a one-way to Europe and you're there by yourself and you come off the court after 3.5 hours and take a loss. You're not feeling great. So there was a lot of mental work. And I said this as a coach to my players, we put in so much physical work on court that, myself included, didn't spend enough time with the mental work. So trying to figure out, if I spend as much time mentally as I do physically, that is going to improve my brain, and that's going to improve my mental strength and all of these things that I felt I had pretty much, I was pretty confident in college. But what comes with not being confident is a bunch of losses. The more losses that I took, the less confident I was. So it took a lot of work for me mentally to, listen to podcasts, and you talk to people who are in the trenches with me, lean on my support staff, like journal, do all these things mentally, watch film, stuff that wasn't physically related, because I could be a physical beast. I could train. I wanted to train all day, every day on court, but that's not what I needed. I needed to work on my mental. So when I understood that, still losing a bunch, but at least I could learn from my losses instead of just being like, oh, I suck, I lost, and then it's like you're going downhill. It's going to be very much up and down, but you just don't want to spend as much time down than getting back up.
I love this.
Learn from, you have to, because the tours, it can be brutal if you don't, and you can get pretty isolated, pretty lonely. It has its perks for sure. It was a wonderful experience. I got to travel the world that I would have never have done if it wasn't for the sport. It definitely teaches you a lot about yourself. You have to self-reflect a lot. You've got to just be tough, but instilled a lot of life lessons that, again, like you said 5 minutes ago, can take you into the next chapter of your life, whether that's starting a new job, opening your own business, moving to a different city. Like it's life, So I'm glad tennis taught me a lot of those life lessons.
So what would you say is your biggest life lesson if you had to go back and think, whether it was professionally, college?
Yeah.
And maybe there was a couple. Is there one that stands out or a story that you can think of?
Definitely. And this comes back to my dad. He was so good at kind of the message of finishing what you start, but not even that. It's just staying consistent over being intense about everything. We just did a little bit each day. And he really showed me through action, if you practice every day before school, whether that's going out and hitting 20 minutes of serves, whether that's having a full practice, whether that's going for a run, whether that's doing a mental training, doing something every single day for 10 years, you will get good at that. Instead of being like, okay, this week I'm going to go all in and then I'm going to kind of fall off. So he just did that in life. And I think he taught that through with us, my brother and I. My brother also played college tennis at Florida State. We had that instilled in us. So now 20 years later, it's very much, okay, if you want to write a book, if you want to start a business, if you want to do whatever, do a little bit each day. And that's really kind of the message I took that, I'm not gonna lie, tennis taught me that one. And then probably just being resilient and unselfish. Being on a college team, you have to be really unselfish. It's not about you, it's about the team. And I was fortunate enough to have great leaders and great teammates that were not selfish. As an athlete, you have to be a little selfish to be good, know? And there, you need a little bit of that, but you also need the selflessness and the unselfishness. So trying to, kind of practice that too in life, I think brings good people around you.
Yeah, what great lessons for people to steal. Just a little bit of progress each day. And because you're right, you can't just say, well, this week I'm going to go hardcore and I'm going to be amazing by the time I'm done this week, because that is not going to happen.
It doesn't work. And motivation doesn't really last. Like you need the habits of just like doing it consistently.
Absolutely. And then the same thing, like you were saying, that you need people to surround you and show you the way, so to speak, and learn from them. And I would agree that you have to own your greatness a little bit and say, like, this is who I am, because you can get in your head if you think I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve to be here. But on the flip side, you have to be unselfish in that this is for the team. It's different when we're here at the college level. What would you say would be a tip that you could give someone who is trying to find that balance between owning that greatness and being selfish, but also being unselfish as being a good team player?
That's a really good question. And it's such a good skill to have. I think one of the biggest things in being a leader, if you want to take on that leadership role, you have to do what you say you're going to do, but also just leading with action. I took on the role of kind of being a leader, not by choice, but just through action. Show up 10 minutes early, be on time, take the balls out. If your coach is trying to split up pairings or, give someone more time, like trust that, right? There were plenty of times in our 4 years where like I was playing with a doubles player, we were doing super well, but our team wasn't winning the doubles point. And he came and talked to us and was like, we have to split you guys up. More like at first, what? We're about to make individual NCAA tournament. We haven't lost yet. Why would you do that? And then he's like, well, do you want to win a national championship, or do you want to just win this doubles match? And we're like, obviously win a national championship. So we understood that, okay, it's for the greater good. So listen to your coaches, listen to your parents. Like they have your best interest. Sometimes like I didn't know everything. Sometimes I thought I did, but like once I kind of opened up and just listened more and like trusted in the process of some of these things, like it really helps you be like unselfish in a way that like you're doing it for something bigger than you.
I love it. It's, when you're saying that, and I know it's all about tennis, I am thinking about what I'm doing right now within my business. And I have people who are in the world of business, lots of different people who listen, but I am doing a meditation, a guided thing through a different program. But anyway, there's a piece of it where they say at the end, something along the lines of like, show me the way, I'm open to whatever is best for everyone, because it's kind of like, what direction do I want to go with this in my business? I'm grateful to love a lot of different people. I go out to elementary schools, high schools, college, professional, and that like big corporations. And the whole idea is being open to what is the best for everyone here, where I end up, where they end up. I was thinking that when you said it for the tennis, even though it was totally not related
It's
to
related, but you can apply it to everything, I feel.
I think that's really, really cool to think of things that way and having it carry over. I'm Kate McCauley, founder of The Champion Within, and I'm here to help you transform your mindset, reach your potential, and thrive in school, sports, and life. With 20 years of experience as an educator and a mindset specialist, I know what it takes to empower teams and individuals to step up, stay focused, and perform at their best. Book a free call with me today. Let's learn how the Champion Within programs can be customized to meet your needs. You can visit my site at shop.danunow.com, or even easier, go to the show notes, click on that link, and book your call. You said you got to see a lot of really cool places when you were on that professional tour. What was one of the coolest things that you got to experience?
Oh my gosh. Well, we were all over the world. So my favorite spot in the world, one of them is Australia. Just being down there is just magical. We were there, Italy. We were in Prague a little bit, just bouncing around Europe and Spain. It just brings you different cultures. And that was really cool to me. We tried to see the city at least one day when I was there. There's a lot. You're obviously there for tennis, but trying to make it a point to spend at least a couple hours just exploring the culture and learning new things, because some of those places I'll never go back to in my life. So honestly, everything brought something different. I really did tie it to, did I do well here? I really like this city, or I didn't do well, get me out of here. But it was just a very cool experience. And it taught me a lot about just, there's so much out there in life, and to try not be so focused on things that maybe don't matter when you can see the world in a different lens.
Yeah, I love that. Really cool. An awesome opportunity. Australia is on my bucket list, by the way. I need to definitely get there. It just looks so cool. Learning from the different cultures. And of course you were busy with tennis. So, just get out a little bit. My parents, I say they were like the Griswolds. We traveled every summer. We were very fortunate, my three brothers and I, and we try to do that now with our kids. And I like to talk to somebody local. My kids are always like, here she goes again. But when you can say, what's a good place to eat or something, so it's cool to see that culture, like you said, a different perspective on
Yes,
things.
totally.
Tell us a little bit about, you were obviously in the professional world. How long were you there? And then when did you transition to coaching? How did it happen for you?
Yeah. And this is also important for people to just give attention to when you're trying to decide if you want to keep going or not. For me, I was 26, 27, about 4 years on tour, highs and lows, but it was hard and it was challenging. I almost wanted a normal life at that age. I was doing okay, but I wasn't making millions by any means. I almost just I think I was ready. I was walking on court and practice, not loving being there. And that was never the case ever. I loved training and competing. I'd travel and was kind of dreading it. My attitude was not great. My approach, my perspective, all just shifted. I had to almost take a self-reflective look in the mirror and be like, if my parents are helping support me, I'm, doing all of this and sacrificing, but I'm not loving it 100%. What am I actually doing? So it was a hard conversation. Long story short, ended up hanging it up, was very content with it. But then of course you're 27. So you have that whole identity crisis of okay, tennis was my whole life. Now what do? I have a degree, but no job. I'm 27. A lot of my friends have been working for 4 years. All of these honest thoughts that people maybe don't talk about that kind of keep them still doing something, even though they don't really want to be doing it because they're laying the inevitable, which I maybe did for 6 months too long. But I got into college coaching. I had a great opportunity, almost serendipitously worked out at Pepperdine. I was living in Santa Monica. That job opened up, and the head coach at the time, he's now the head coach at Florida, but he is the best coach person. I just got so grateful to be able to learn from him in my first coaching job. He took that program from nothing to number one in the country. And I was just side by side with him in that. That experience for me was wow, coaching is awesome. I really want to give back. I really love the connection with the girls, getting the most out of them, teaching, I like helping, giving back to the sport, all of the things. It kind of was an easier transition maybe than most because I got a little bit lucky, but I'm just like, from there, went to go coach at Florida and had a great 5 years coaching college athletics and college women's tennis players and loved it. But obviously now we can talk about it maybe in a few minutes, but what I do now is very different, but I'm very grateful I had those 5 years to give back and kind of close the chapter on tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many things there too. And first, I want to say the mindset coach to me has to say this. I don't think that you got lucky. I think you were exactly where you were meant to be.
Yes,
And I just had to throw that in there because I don't know. I'm obsessed with the brain and how this works. And I tell people all the time, I hear you, but it really is science and you probably don't realize it, but anyway,
well, to your point, and just sorry not to cut you off, but I definitely think it was manifested a little bit. And I know you're like probably huge on manifestation, but I remember knowing that job was open, and Pear, who's almost like a second dad to me now, so he won't care that I tell his story. I was texting him, emailing him so much, and he was not giving me the time of day. And I was just, again, to what we talked about before, I'm like, just keep going, keep asking until they say no. Just, manifest it. I'm getting this job. So finally I got a meeting with him. I had lunch with him and his wife. Wonderful. Hit it off. And the next day he offered me the job. But now it's a running joke. Pear, I literally called you, stalked you for a month straight to try and get your attention. Okay, maybe it wasn't lucky, but it was just the persistence and the consistency of I'm getting this job.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad you did share that story because I think sometimes you're being humble. And I think we all do that, saying like, oh, I got lucky, like it happened. But really, if we start to think back, I mean, this just happened with me in, I guess, October, November. I had someone reach out to me for a speaking engagement and I went into it thinking, I'm going to this. Like, I just, and I kind of showed up talking to everyone like, all right, well, what does the room look like? Like, where's the microphone? As if I was going to do it. I'm reaching out to the person, like, and it just kind of happened that way. Same as what you were saying. I'm reaching out like, hey, and your brain starts to then look for opportunities to say, how can we do this? How can I make this happen? Because you believe that it's possible, So I think that if somebody's listening right now and they're thinking, I could see this happening. If you can see it happening, let go of exactly how you think it might be, because it might be a little bit different, but don't let go of it because if you can see it, it can happen.
Yes. It's not as far off as you might think or might
100%. Yeah. So I love that. And I love how you mentioned also that it was a great way for you to almost have some closure with tennis. And you mentioned your identity. This happens a lot when I am talking with and working with athletes who are even coaches who are moving out of the sport, deciding, do I want to play in college, different things. You spend so much time with those people in that sport that it becomes who you are.
Yep.
And this can happen in a lot of different areas. When I was a teacher, deciding to leave that profession after 20 years, it was like, who am I? To be able to coach, this is a great way for people who were athletes at whatever level they stop competitively participating. If you can coach, even if it's not at the high level, maybe it's a youth program, your local neighborhood, or if you can go and referee, something like that, so you can still be in the sport. And it's just a great way for you to still tap into that love of the game.
Totally. It makes you better too. I had to adapt my personalities based on players. You can't treat everyone the same. You just, again, you learn and it helps you with self-growth as well. So there's a lot of advantages that come out of it at whatever level that you take. They all have their pros and cons and they're all just wonderful.
Yeah, I love it. And I think my coaches listening and the ones I work with in workshop can learn so much from that too. You said something again now, how you deal with each athlete. I have to deal with them differently. And you mentioned it even when you were looking at colleges and coaches that helped you. As a coach, what did you find? 2 questions for you here. That was the most difficult and the thing that was this really worked for me as a coach with my athletes. So 2 questions there.
Yeah. So the most difficult was definitely that, like understanding, and this is what my bosses separately both really helps me with in different ways, was not everybody is you and not everybody's like them. You have to adapt based on how they're going to respond. Some people like tough love. Some people need the reinforcement. Some people need less, like say less. Some people, you need to talk about something other than tennis on the court. It was so important for me to just listen to them before I just start talking. Listening was a huge thing because it's like, you just want to fix things and you just want to help. And being a type A personality of athlete, go, go, go. It's like, just chill and kind of see where they're at and meeting them with meeting them where they're at was the first one. So that was the most difficult. And then what was the second question? Sorry.
I guess the second one would be, what did you think was something that really landed well? Maybe how you did that, the listening, or something that as a coach, maybe you did it or you learned from someone else. You're like, this really worked for me as a coach and my athletes, that maybe another coach listening right now could say, deal that.
Yeah. So and speaking from experience, coaching 18 to 22-year-old females, right? So I would say, and this was my own personal experience too, half the time, if we're having a bad day, or maybe more than half, or not playing well, it has something to do other than tennis. I tell some of my male coaching friends too, and they're like, how do you coach females? I'm like, make sure they're good off court. Ask them about their studies. Ask them about like things that you feel comfortable with a player coach relationship tapping into, depending on your relationship. But building the relationship with my players outside the tennis court gained a huge amount of trust for me when they were on the court. Then they're able to listen to me because they know that I had their back with whatever it was outside the court. So it's relationship building. And that's where I'm so like passionate about that, even in what I currently do now with nutrition and helping people, find their way health-wise, is like, you got to develop that relationship outside of what you're trying to do in order for them to trust you.
I love all of that.
Yeah.
I love it. So the first piece, and this is for coaches and parents, and, Lauren just said it, but I want everyone to pay attention to this. If you have to, rewind, but be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Be quiet and listen. When I'm in those parent village mentality talks, they all want to fix it. You just said it perfectly. They want to help and they want to fix, the coaches and the parents. If you would just be quiet and let them talk. I teach them this, and they can steal it. I do it in the talk, but it's an FBI technique, actually. And whatever someone says, let's say my daughter gets into my car after her track practice and she says, oh, I just can't handle this anymore. There's so much drama. Everybody is, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about this. And then I have to be quiet, because I know I could quickly say, well, if you did this, Kylie, I could help her solve this, but really she needs to. But the FBI technique here for somebody who's trying to, and this is not me, it's literally from an FBI thing. I took a little master class on it. At the end of that vomiting that my daughter will do when she hops into my car, or maybe your athletes are doing when you're the coach, whatever she says last, if she says, I am so over the drama, let's say that's the last piece of the sentence. What you do is you say, so over the drama, with a questioning tone, and then what will happen? And test this out on anyone. Go to a store today. Do it to your friends. Do it to whoever. I tested it when I did it with my kids to see if it would work with like not stressful situations. They were just talking. What will happen is you just have to then be quiet. They will then start telling you stuff. And then it's like when they were interrogating people, this is what the FBI does. And then she'll say, well, yeah, this person said that. And then this person said that. And the coaches don't even know the drama that's going on, blah, 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 blah. And I'll say, and then she'll be like, and, I just don't even think I want to get involved, but maybe I should. Maybe you should. Mm-hmm. After she stops. Yeah. And it's like, I'm like, is this really work? And I tried it, and it's a way to let them kind of let it, and you can't give advice. Yeah. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But being quiet.
I'm gonna try it.
Try it. I will warn you. You try it, and other people who try it. I had someone who I was coaching, and she told her husband about it. Then they went to a yoga retreat, couples thing. He didn't want to go. She's like, I talked him into this. And she's like, he did it. People were like, he's the best. He's like such a great listener. And she just kept like looking at him like, I know what you're doing.
Oh my
gosh. She was like using this little technique. Like, all the people were like just chatty with him. And
hilarious.
Yeah. She's like, oh, okay. I know what you're doing. But see if it works. But anyway, I love the tip of listening. You also said something about each athlete is different, which I want to highlight this too, because I remember as a coach, when I was coaching, I actually got thrown into tennis. Ironically, I was not a tennis player, but when I was student teaching, they did not have a tennis coach for the middle school. They begged me to do it or they wouldn't have a season. So I did it. I actually felt guilty because they had their own individual coaches, like outside of the, And I was like, I feel guilty. At the end, they gave me like gift cards and stuff. The kids, I said, I told them honestly, I'm not a tennis player. I'm here so we can have a season. I remember that, and like basketball coaching and different things where I would get to know the kids, and certain kids I would have to say sport specific things. And other kids I would be like, did you eat French fries today? Or they would just laugh. It would have to be something totally
Totally.
different.
You have to just adapt based on like, what they're feeling.
Yeah, and getting to know them. So I think
Okay.
that's really, really great tips for people. And again, you had said this earlier, it's worth investing the time with your players.
That's where you gain the trust, is like outside the tennis court, the baseball field, soccer field, whatever it is, whatever sport it is. But that's where you really make like progress, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Moving to where you are today and what you do today. First, how did you decide I'm going to leave the coaching tennis world and have that closure? It sounds like it was a good place for you for the 5 years. Also, before we even get there, can we talk about when you went to Florida? How cool was that to go back?
Yeah.
Talk about that. I want to hear what you're doing.
Thank you for asking that. It was honestly like, and I realized this in the moment, like how rare that opportunity was. Now, it wasn't just like a shoe-in, like, yes, I'm going to leave Pepperdine right now and go to Florida, and like easy decision, because Pepperdine was amazing. My support staff, my boss, being in Malibu, who wouldn't love to be there at 27? I had a really hard time leaving at first because I wasn't running from anything. It was just, I was running to something. It was hard. But at the end of the day, I was like, my family is in Gainesville. I was close with them, but gone a lot growing up. The opportunity to be with my mom and dad, which I'll get to why that was so important later, like for 3 years with them, again, to now be on the other side of it, playing or coaching with the guy that I played for, that had given me so much happiness and joy in my career. And then being at Florida, like that brand is obviously huge, and it's a huge program, and they were good, and I had the opportunity to make them better. It kind of all made sense from a career standpoint. It was just not an easy black or white decision. I went back and forth and really stressed about it a lot, because it was hard to give up something that I was loving so much. So that happened. And then, getting to where I am now, not to make this a sad story, but just for context, like back in 2022, my dad, who is basically my hero, mentor, best friend, all of the things in life, was playing tennis just on a normal Friday morning and dropped dead of a heart attack. So within 24 hours, my life was completely turned upside down. Not to get into all the details, but I was on a road trip, had to fly back, and within 12 hours, he was gone. They say when things happen to you that are so traumatic, it kind of changes your perspective. If you've ever heard someone that had cancer be like, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because of this now. Not that it is the best thing, but they really think that, oh, this perspective changed my life. And that's what happened. Not the best thing that's ever happened to me, worst thing that's ever happened to me, but it definitely made me kind of really reflect on what I wanted out of life, because my dad was a perfectly healthy, just retired 65-year-old guy, had the whole life to now live that he worked so hard for and doesn't get to experience any of it. That did not sit well with me. So I basically took that year, worked, had great people around me, took care of my mom, my brother. We were all obviously going through it, but then just realized like, hey, I've had a functional medicine background. I've had this experience with my own health. I've been doing it on the side a little bit. I'm super passionate about it. I spent all my time reading books and podcasts and, getting more schooling for it. What am I doing not doing that? So it really transformed me into expediting this process. Literally moved to Austin the end of that year, knowing zero people, took a job to get me out here in the nutrition space, quit that job in June because I felt confident enough. I was building my business to where I could do that full time. As of April of 24, I've been on my own, and it's been a whirlwind of highs and lows, ups and downs. Obviously sucks sometimes, but worth it to me to do what I love to do. And that kind of experience helps me understand what's important in life and what I really should actually be doing on this earth. So led me to Austin. Yeah.
So first, continued love, I read a little bit about that when you shared that, and thank you for sharing that with our listeners. Just from hearing, I didn't know all the details about your journey, and hearing how your mom and dad were a huge part of your whole tennis career and just journey and their support. It is life-changing when something like that happens, and for it to happen on a tennis court. I mean, it's just, there's so many pieces there that it's like, oh my gosh, like that's just, and then now I can't help but think that your dad is playing a part in you making these decisions. And of course he impacted who you are and how you help people. Like we said, it doesn't stay with the college experience or the professional experience or even the coaching experience, it comes with you. It's not like you shut that off and say, that was just me back then. So all the people you get to love now get a piece of all of that, which is really so amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, I wouldn't want you to experience that loss, but the perspective change and exactly where it might be. And I give you a lot of credit. It's so brave.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yes, it is. I mean, I do think kind of our whole conversation was these lessons of what sport teaches you and the times that, you know, you're struggling by yourself or moving and, you know, starting a new life, basically. My dad was always going to support everything I did as long as, again, I did it full throttle. But he reminded me, hey, you have this whole tennis background. So for you to stay in tennis makes sense. You know, you maybe not start all the way over because you've built up this resume of tennis where, like, if you go into nutrition or you move cities where nobody knows you, you're starting from the bottom and you have to be okay with that and you have to work your way. And I'm like, okay, well, I started from the bottom in tennis and I was, you know, you built all these progressive steps to get to where you want to be. I try to channel that as much as I can when I'm having the self-doubt, because everybody has that self-doubt. When you do it, like, oh my God, what did I just do? All of the thoughts. Not to say it's all, again, butterflies and roses, like everything's great. It's like, no, you have some bad days and some dark days, but taking those lessons that sport teaches you of resilience and perseverance and confidence and, you know, strength and practicing, learning, adversity, I try to channel that into business or to relationships or whatever it is. So that helps. But yeah, it's just everyone's got their key, and that was part of mine. But I try and, you know, optimism is key, and you just got to try and remind yourself the things that you have, that you are grateful for. And
yeah, definitely. I think gratitude plays a huge piece in success in general. I know for me, it does. I try to lean into that. Actually, when the days are tougher, that's when I know that I need to use gratitude even 100%. More. And sometimes it's like coffee.
Yes.
Sunshine.
I'm grateful that I can make coffee. Yeah.
Right. But gratitude is a huge piece there. What you basically just described is what I call an evidence hunt. You might not have done it through business in the past, but your brain has done all of those things before and been supported by different people. And their voices are still there for you to hear, hey, wait a minute, Lauren, like when you're having that self-doubt, you've done this before, just differently. We know how to do this, you know? So, and I think that it's important for everyone to remember that, whether it's a business journey or whatever they are doing, that you can look at other areas of your life and, you know, put that in 100%. In a unique way and if you don't know how to do that, go talk to someone and they can help you find the evidence, because sometimes we can't see it. Other people will say, Kate, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like, you know, when I first left my job, and it was kind of a crazy journey, and I'm not going to get into all of that now. I talk on other podcasts about that episodes, but I would say a lot of times, well, I was a teacher, and now I never say that anymore. People would say to me, will you stop saying that? Like you were doing this for 20 years and this, and I had to look at it differently of my skills. Now I use that as a business owner in so many different ways, because we don't always see it for ourselves, even in that evidence hunt. I think that's important to remember for anybody who's listening. I do want to hear a little bit more. You kind of described it a little bit, but I loved looking at your Instagram. I saw one clip where you were going shopping and helping somebody pick out things. And I know that not all of my listeners are in Austin, but some people might just want to follow and be like, how do I figure this out? Or, you know, first, how do people work with you? And tell them, you know, exactly what is it that you can do for them? And is it all in person? Is it virtual? Tell them, you know.
Yeah. So
of them.
Yeah. So my company is embreewellness.org. So that's my website. Company is Embree Wellness. And it's really just the power to fuel strong. I offer a lot of weight management programs, a lot of athletes. I still work with some athletes on their meal plans and their nutrition timing, how to eat on the road, brand labeling, sometimes for busy moms or high working CEOs and, you know, business owners. It's like, how do I get healthy nutrients in a small amount of time? So a lot of like quick meals, but it's all nutrition and gut health related, because I'm very much a believer that food is the medicine approach. And that's if my message in my business is food and lifestyle, basically who we're around and our movement combined with the foods that we're putting inside of our body. So everyone's on their own journey, but it ranges from like a 15-year-old high performing athlete to, a busy 45-year-old mom, menopause, guys that just want to lose weight, build muscle. It's all around the holistic approach of just like trying the best strategies that work for you from a food standpoint that helps you sustain this lifestyle. I'm not a huge believer in dieting or any of these crazy, rigidly dogmatic things. We've got a consistency again over intensity. It's the lesson that, I was taught very young. So I want to try and, pivot that into my business.
Cool. And
my
how
website and my Instagram is basically how you find me. So Embree
Wellness.
Wellness.
Instagram and your website?
Yep. Instagram, website, email, embreewellness@gmail.com. But it's all on my website too. So a lot of fun videos, grocery shopping with clients, because I do that remote. A lot of my clients are remote. Not everybody's in Austin, but the ones that are
good. I was going to ask that.
Yeah. A lot of them that are here, I'll physically go to the grocery store with them, but a lot of them that aren't, sometimes I'll just make a Amazon account like for them and grocery shop, and then they have it on just reorder and we can just edit that. But
I love this. So really you could help people anywhere.
Yeah. If they're ready to feel better and optimize their life, then obviously our health is our most important. Health and time is like our most important thing. So we got to cherish that.
Yeah. I was getting ready this morning and I heard Kelly Ripa, and she's like, oh, this is so on brand. She's like, we're going to thrive in 25. I was like, I love that. I'm still on that and talking about it to myself.
That's great.
But, if somebody's thinking right now, I really want to thrive, what you put into your body mentally, what we're talking about, but the food that you're putting in, like you can't just go to the gym or like do this mental stuff and like not forget about the fork, and if you're not sure or you need a little guidance there.
Yeah.
Lauren's your woman. I love that.
Accountability partner right here.
And we need that because we're very quick. Our brains will very quickly go back into that old version of us. So you need someone to keep you accountable. I love that. All of my listeners, I will drop those sites and the link for Instagram in my show notes. So you can click on that and go follow along, connect with her. And I'm thinking right now, Lauren, some of the teams I work with, maybe you could even go do workshops or different things. I got plans.
We'll talk because we got all the ideas on how we can combine the service, because it is important. Like nutrition is more important. You can't over exercise a bad diet. I was a culprit of that my whole life, overtraining life. And it's just, it doesn't make sense. So
definitely.
Education, especially the kids. So
definitely. I love it. I love it. I know you're probably going to get a lot of people all reach out and connect because it's very important.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that and for sharing the journey. I'm going to move to my last question. I really could talk to you forever because there's so many great things, but I ask everyone this question. It's a new one actually for our season 4. If you had the opportunity to choose any day, either going back in your life or going forward, and you did just get to pick one day, what day, where are you going to pick and what are you going to do that day?
Yeah. So I'm going back to my 7-year-old self with my dad, of course, now that you know kind of my story about my dad. I'm on the boat fishing with him. That was one of his most favorite things. If it wasn't on the tennis court with my brother and I, it was on the water, being in nature. So I'm definitely soaking up all of that time that I can with my family and my parents. I know it's not perfect in every family dynamic, but really cherish your parents and listen to them and love them. Every opportunity you can to, be grateful for them and thank them, because I know I'm not a mom, but I know moms and dads do whatever they can for their kids. So I'm definitely going back to my childhood in Marco Island, just with my dad and my brother and my mom out there fishing on the boat. One of my favorite childhood times. So
I love it. That sounds like a perfect day.
Yeah, great day.
Yeah, I love it. And at age 7, what a great place to be, right? It's
like your 7-year-old self. If I could tell her now things,
Yeah, you would love just sitting on that boat looking at her being like, girl, this is going to be great. It's going to be
your oyster, girl.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun journey. And, you would probably be just loving just catching the fish and just being in the day. I love it. Great choice. Yeah. Great choice. All right, Lauren. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And I am really just looking forward to following your journey and definitely connecting with you and seeing what happens next.
Yes. And thank you so much, Kate. What you're doing is wonderful. Such an honor to be on this podcast and just excited to learn more too. So you've gained a listener.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening today. Make sure you go down to the show notes and connect with Lauren and have an amazing rest of your week.
Thank you for hanging out with Kate today. And whether you're going to coach, teach, cheer from the sidelines, or hitting the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show for the latest episodes, as we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and sanity in our busy lives. Now, go and unleash your champion within you, one step at a time. We're always rooting for you.